I often get asked, how much does it actually cost to start a microgreens business? In today's video, we're going to break down everything you need to start a microgreens business so that you can start off on the right foot and avoid hours upon hours of watching YouTube videos trying to piece everything together. For those that don't know, my name is Jonah and I founded Living Earth Farm, one of Canada's largest microgreens farms. I built it from the ground up, starting in a spare bedroom in my home to a large 5,000 square foot commercial facility. I've grown over 250,000 trays of microgreens, supplying grocery stores, distributors, and top chefs. I had to figure out the business the hard way, but now I get to share what I've learned to help others build efficient, profitable farms that scale. If you're new to microgreens or want to grow your existing farm the smart way, make sure to subscribe. This channel has everything you need to get started and grow a microgreens business. Now let's get right into it. To start a successful microgreens business, you need some basic supplies to get started. There's 10 basic supplies you need, and then there's a few optional ones that'll make your life a lot easier in starting your business. The first and most important item you need is grow lights. The biggest mistake I see beginners make is trying to save money on grow lights by buying the least expensive option or using lights that aren't even meant to grow plants. If you're going to be growing microgreens as a business, you really want the product quality to be as good as possible. The better the quality of the product, the easier it's going to be to sell, and the less time you can spend on sales, more time doing what you actually want to do, which is grow the microgreens. So grow lights are really important. There's two grow lights that I recommend. They're both made by the brand Barina. They're just a different spectrum, but they're both 4-foot length, 42 watt full spectrum lights. One of them is a pinkish hue that you can see in the background, and the other one's a little bit more a purple color. So either one's going to work great. It's just a preference on which one you want to use. There's slight differences, and I've made another video about this comparing the two. But overall, these are really, really low cost lights that you can use for microgreens, and they're actually meant to grow plants. So they do a really, really good job. I recommend using 3 lights per level because that's going to give you by far the best results and get a really high quality microgreen. So to start out, a single pack is $100. And that gives you 6. So if you want to do a full rack of 20 trays, then you're going to need 3 packs of these lights. So it would range from anywhere from just starting out $100 up to $300. The next item you'll need is a shelving unit. So I recommend this specific shelving unit, which is a wire mesh rack. It's nice because it's coated with a material that prevents it from rusting. And because you're growing microgreens on it, they're inevitably going to get a little bit wet over time. So just a long-term thing to consider. You can buy these, they're quite inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon for about $120, and that gives you 5 racks, and each rack holds 4 trays, which means you have 20 trays of microgreens you can grow. And just so people know, with 20 trays of microgreens, which is very small footprint, just 6 square feet, you can grow upwards of $2,000 plus per month of microgreens in revenue. And roughly 80% of that would be profit. So about $1,600 of profit per month growing microgreens in just 6 square feet. So you can see how scalable this type of business really is, which is how I was able to scale it to be such a large farm that was growing, upwards of 1,500 trays per week. The next item you're going to need is soil. So soil is another one that's really important to make sure you buy a high quality soil. So you could go to Home Depot or your local hardware store and just buy whatever soil you can find. But in my experience, soil makes a really big difference and makes your life a lot easier in actually having success growing microgreens. So the less time you can spend on experimentation and the faster you can get to a successful, high quality microgreen product, the sooner you can start selling it and making money. So again, it makes sense to spend a little bit extra and get a high quality soil. What I recommend is ProMix HP, which is a non-organic version of a peat moss and perlite mixed with some fertilizer that's added in as a starter charge. Or if you want to go the organic route, there's a product called ProMix MP, which is the organic version of ProMix HP. So it just uses organic fertilizer and uses coconut coir on top of peat moss. So it's just got a mixture of the two. So for the soil, you're looking at about roughly $60 for the soil to get a bale, which will do roughly 50 trays of microgreens, which is more than enough to get started. Now, while these soils do have a starter fertilizer, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's anywhere close to enough to grow a high quality microgreen product. And this is where, again, you could spend hours on YouTube watching people tell you, don't use fertilizer. Like I said, I've been growing microgreens for a long time. If I could save money on the fertilizer, I would. But the return on investment on using a high quality fertilizer is insane. I also made a video about that, and I believe it was over 1,000% return by using the fertilizer and the extra product you get, plus the intangibles of it being a higher quality product, having a higher shelf life. So the fertilizer that I've been using for a very long time now is called Gaia Green 444 All-Purpose. It's a certified organic fertilizer that is incredible at creating a high quality microgreen product. It's also very consistent, which is another issue people have when they start using compost or other types of fertilizer, is you can get an inconsistent crop. If you're getting crops that are, you're getting twice the yield, and then the next time you grow, you're getting half the yield. It's much better to have a consistent yield, because it's going to allow it to be much more predictable. And again, we're trying to make this a business. So the more predictable things are, the easier it is to run the business. So for the fertilizer, you're looking at about a $28 expense for the fertilizer. The next item you're going to need is trays with holes to actually grow the microgreens. So most growers use something called a 1020 microgreen tray or germination tray. And these are just trays that are standard for all the equipment in the microgreens industry. So while you can use something else, the microgreens will still grow. If you want to standardize, again, for scaling the business, it just makes sense to use the proper trays that are used for commercial production. One, they're going to last practically forever. So they're really, really durable. And two, they're actually meant for this purpose. So they've been tested to be effective for growing microgreens. So you need trays with holes, and then you need trays without holes. So buying the proper trays is definitely not the cheapest option. You can go on Amazon and find less expensive options. But in my opinion, using the right trays, they're going to last a long time, like I said. So it's worth it to spend a little bit extra on them. So for 30 trays, which is enough to get started on a rack and then have some spare trays, you're looking at $150. And then you also need trays without holes. So that's where you're going to water the crops through, is the tray without holes. And then the tray with holes absorbs that water and goes into the soil in that tray. So you also need approximately 30 of those trays. So that's another $150. The next item that you're going to need to grow your microgreens business is seed. So seed is, of course, a very important component in this. Without seed, you literally can't grow the crop. So seed is another part of the equation that's really important to buy a high quality product, because I have spent way too much time in the early years trying to find the lowest cost option for seed. And I can guarantee you in the long run, it's going to cost you a lot more to go that way. One, because you're going to have a reduced yield, you're going to have more disease risk and more trouble growing the crop. So spending money on a high quality seed is worth its weight in gold, in my opinion. So the 4 crops I recommend starting with are radish, broccoli, kale, and pea. You can get all of them from a place like High Mowing, or from Mum's Sprouting Seeds, or Johnny's. Those are the ones I recommend. So just roughly, you're going to expect to spend about $45 for a pound of radish seed. I really like red rainbow radish. It's a beautiful red color. It grows really well in 8 days. You have a crop ready to go. The next crop is broccoli, which costs about $24 for 1 pound. And 1 pound of broccoli seed is going to last you quite a long time. So these expenses, some of them, like the soil, they're not just for the first couple of trays you're growing. They will last a decent amount of time. The next seed you'll need is kale. I really love red Russian kale. It's really fast growing, super mild flavor, very disease resistant. And that'll cost you roughly $46 for 1 pound. And then last is pea seeds. Speckled pea, in my opinion, is the best variety to grow for yield and for quality. So Mom's, you can get 5 kilograms or about 11 pounds of a speckled pea seed for $47. So you're looking at about $200 or less for seed. And that's, again, going to last you quite a few trays. So that brings us to our total for the bare bones basics, what you need to grow microgreens. And you're looking at about $700 to about $1,000. So depending on, how much seed you buy, where you're getting the soil, where you're getting the lights, and then how much, if you're going to do just a few lights or if you're going to get for a full rack of 20 trays, it's going to vary a bit. But you can grow $2,000 worth of microgreens in that rack that you're growing. So for $700 to $1,000, within a month, you're pretty much paying for itself and then beyond. So within a month, you're profitable. There is absolutely no other farming business that I know of that you can go from starting out to being profitable in less than a month. Now, normally it's going to take a little bit longer than that because you're going to have to get practice growing it. So I would give it roughly 2 to 3 months to expect to break even. And then from there, the sky's the limit. Don't just take my word for it. Look online. There's tons of farms that, are growing tens of thousands of dollars of microgreens a month, if not more. And I've had a bunch of them on the podcast. So if anyone's interested, you can check out the podcast, which is on this YouTube channel, and you can see all the different farms that are having success in the industry. And that's just a small sample size of the enormous microgreens industry that's really been growing over this last decade since I started my farm. Now, the optional items are ones that I would recommend, and these are especially important, some of them, if you want to start selling the microgreens right away. So the first one is going to be a scale. So in order to weigh the microgreens, one, to make sure you're getting the yields that make sense, and two, to be able to package them properly, you need a scale. On Amazon, you get a scale for $9, super cheap. You don't need anything fancy. You just want it to be accurate, roughly to 1 gram. So nothing fancy. For packaging, the best clamshells I recommend are 24-ounce clamshells, because you can use all 4 products: the radish, broccoli, kale, and pea, and then even more products as you get into more varieties of microgreens in the future. All of them can be packaged in 24-ounce clamshells, so it just saves you from having different size clamshells. You can get a 200 pack on Amazon for $75, and again, that'll last you quite a while. If you just think about it, if you're selling the microgreens for $6 or $7 per clamshell, you're talking about a pretty good amount of product before you run out. Next is vermiculite. So this is a little bit more optional. I really recommend vermiculite because it just makes it a lot easier in the germination phase of growing microgreens, which I talk about in my free growing guide, which has all the links to all these products, as well as step-by-step instructions on how to grow microgreens with having no experience at all. So it's a really great guide. You can download it in the link in the description. And that'll take you to our website where you can download it for free. So vermiculite's great because it acts as a blanket for the crop. So pretty much, if you just put seeds on the soil and then you stack the trays, the biggest challenge you're going to have is the seeds are potentially going to dry out. And if the seeds dry out, the crop doesn't germinate. So vermiculite is a really great insulating moisture blanket for the crop. And it just makes it so the odds of seeds drying out are much, much lower. I use it on every single crop I grow. It's well worth the small investment. You're talking about $17 to get a bag to get started. So I think it's well worth it. It'll make your life a lot easier. And my goal with teaching people how to grow microgreens is to make it easy, not more difficult. And vermiculite 100% makes it easier. And then the last optional item is a Wi-Fi timer. And this is just so that you don't have to turn the lights on and off. In our growing guide, it tells you exactly how long you want the crops to be under light, how to set that up. And the Wi-Fi timer makes it really easy to do that. And that's about $8 off Amazon. So that gets it to a total of about, for those optional items, about $110. So you're talking about here now $900 to about $1,100 for absolutely everything you need to get started growing microgreens for sale as a business. In my opinion, this is by far first of all, one of the most fun things you can do. I love growing plants, and I find it brings so much joy. So even if you just want to do it as a hobby, I think it's a great hobby to start. And then maybe if you like it enough or you really enjoy it, you can turn it into a business. Or if you're really business focused, you can kind of start off the bat thinking of it as a business and making sure all the numbers work out, which we have a ton of free tools on our website at microgreensconsulting.com, including a recipe book you can give customers, a cost calculator to make sure that you have all the numbers super clear and you can understand how much you're actually going to make growing microgreens. We have a market research guide that helps you figure out where should you sell this product in your local market and how to do so. So there's a ton of free information on our website. Check that out. Also download the free growing guide, which is going to give you absolutely everything you need to get started. Microgreens have absolutely changed my life. When I think about when I finished school and I started my microgreens business and how much I learned over, that 10-year period, it's been honestly an incredible journey. It's been so much fun. And at the end of the day, I was able to sell my business and make a pretty profit on the actual growing microgreens, but then actually selling the business. So there's a lot of opportunity here. In my opinion, this industry is still so new on the grand scheme of things, and there's so much opportunity. So I wish you all the best of luck. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down below, and I'd be happy to answer and support you guys in starting your microgreens businesses. Thanks so much for tuning in.